Hey guys, it's Matt. This chair goes back. I've just got to lean back into this one. This is probably the strangest thing I've ever said. No Scarface imitations or jokes in this one. Don't mean to scare anybody. This is just an exercise in thinking big. No doom and gloom or anything like that. But this is probably the strangest thing I've ever said. It hit me about an hour ago. I don't know how this is going to come out. So let me just say it. And please, this is going to be a slower presentation. Please really think about what's being presented. Help me with the comments and give me time to get this out. What is going on with the Q people right now? The Q anon people could be a literal window as to showing us how reality itself operates or works. Okay, the Q people, depending on how it goes over the next few weeks, could be, in some way, will be a window as to how the actual reality works that we can use. And one way it could play out is more disturbing than another. But let me just explain that. What? How could that be? Okay, to start with the absolute basics. Even 6 months ago, almost everybody that goes or visits YouTube channels like this in our subset of the truth community, we saw, most of us saw years ago. There's just nonsense that nobody's going to ride in on their white horses and save all of us. Okay, I remember I was cutting up the YouTube channel, the Lionel Nation, almost 3 years ago, saying, the Lionel Nation almost 3 years ago said we're just weeks away from Q revealing things that will change the face of this country. And, they've all said that. So, again, the Q people could provide a window into the nature of reality itself. Give me a chance to get that out. So, in our community, our subset of the truth community, we've all observed this from afar going, year after year goes by and nothing happens. So why are they putting faith in it? Now, what's really strange is they still, from people that have reached out to me, and I haven't put a lot of research into it, but they still seem to have faith. Their man is gone. Nothing happened, and they still seem to have faith, which is simply not possible unless the reality is literally different from our reality. That's ultimately where I'm going to go with this. But give me a chance to get there, please. So again, you had this blind faith that Q information was going to come out, arrests, people, corruption, draining the swamp, corrupt people would go to jail. All of this hope in this subset of people that followed something called Q. And as time went on, we found it harder and harder that there would still be faith in this. Now, we find it impossible to believe there would be faith in it after their man is not even in the office. So it just doesn't make any sense. So when I say, the Q people could be a window into how reality itself works, again, I'm going to need a little time to get this out. What if a month goes by and people that I just don't have time to research, but people that know the Q channels of communication, they come to us or to me and say this stuff is still buzzing around like things are going to happen. Like we would have to call that a level of psychosis of some kind. All right, that just would defy all logic. It would be similar to, I don't know, a corporate executive of some kind getting a pink slip, getting caught up in these big drug companies. They will lay off 5 to 10,000 people in a big sweeping layoff. Happens all the time, even in the best of times. And their stock price will go up a half a point, and the CEO will make $30 million overnight in stock appreciation, and they'll just lay all these people, put them off on the street. But it would be like somebody that got the pink slip, waiting in the parking lot, saying, no, at any moment the boss is going to walk outside and just welcome me in with a raise. And we would say it's psychotic. You're holding your pink slip. You're out. It would so that's the way we see the Q people at this point. So you we've if this keeps up, meaning maybe it won't keep up. And if this next scenario happens, then what I'm saying here has to be completely reassessed, and it's far less dark and disturbing. Meaning, if whoever monitors these Q channels, we see in a few weeks nothing will happen. Biden still in there. Everything seems, I don't know, whatever shoes they drop over here around C, that's all that's going to happen anyway. It's either here nor there. But if the Q channels start going, people start coming out going, we were played, or this was nothing. We put a lot of stock in this and it was nothing, and some sort of is capitulation the right word? I don't know. But if they change their tone, then okay, then things are a lot more normal. But if they don't change their tone, then what I'm saying is I've got to put back on the table that it's not just that they're all fooled or whatever, because it's beyond being fooled. It's like a level, and they're not all psychotic. They're not the guy in the parking lot waiting with the holding his pink slip, waiting for the boss to come out and give him a raise. They're not all psychotic. They might want to believe in savior mentality or whatever, but at some point I have to put back on the table they're in a different reality of some kind, where we look into it and it's just completely insane and psychotic. So guys, if you just give me, I know a lot of you are trying to rolling your eyes at that, but let me back up and then try to put the pieces together here. What the main premise of our entire community, the overall truth community, is to say we see this. We see the way the world really works, without filters, without veils. We see that a building that if you dropped it in any European country would be one of the top 3 or 4 buildings in terms of size. This is 7. If you put it in any European country, it's that big. It would be immediately the top 3 or 4 biggest in the country. And something like that can't go down in 8.5 seconds from a fire on floors 8, 9, and 10. It's so easy to see that that's impossible. So the whole premise of our community is we see this, and why I've got to bring Andy back. Okay, I have to bring Andy back. I was make jokes before. This is not a joking or fun presentation. Andy represents the masses. In this case, anybody that may have voted for Biden. Let's keep them separate from Trump's people, the Q people, because that's a different part of this conversation. So it's not a joke. I just need this because this is what Andy represented the masses before. So what do we do? We say, well, the Andy's, this is so clear, and it's not just Building 7. We have thousands of these examples where, it's so easy to see this is impossible. The 7-Eleven event alone gives us hundreds. It gives us a passport that's slightly singed when we see pictures of this massive fireball. Just the forces of the magnitude, and we see a passport slightly singed. But Andy can't understand it for some reason. Where ultimately I'm going with this is Andy could be in a different reality. We could be in a different reality. Hear me out. I hope it's completely wrong. It's just an exercise in thinking big. The Q people will tell us if there's any stock to these theories at all. And I've always kept the separate reality bubble on the table anyway. So they just can't see all the things. Somebody that just lost their little one comes out smiling and laughing. They can't see it. All right, we know that. But now, see, what could be highly disturbing and in revealing is, do we have another group doing it? Another massive group doing it called the Q people. Now, one thing that needs to be inserted here is, and this changes everything, potentially the Q, and I don't know a lot about it, so you guys in the comments will let me know, but it could be almost a psyop on us, meaning we have this belief that there are, millions potentially, or at least a few million minimum, of people that are very big Trump supporters who also look to Q and believe every bit. Maybe that's a psyop. Maybe there are very few that believe. So we think we're special over here. And who believes in this stuff? And the Lionel Nation talking about Q and other YouTube channels. That's all to put forth to make people believe that there are millions and millions of people that actually believes this, when there's maybe very few that believe in Q. So people that have come to me recently and said, look at all this Q activity, where they still believe something's going to happen. Their man's out of the office and they still believe something's happened. Maybe it's bot generated. Maybe it's just there for a show. Maybe there is no. You could have bots generating tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of tweets saying we're still waiting for the swamp to be drained, or we're waiting for Q to reveal that last bit of information that will haul the Hillary Clintons off to jail. And maybe the bots are creating this buzz. That if that is, it's a basic psyop and a level of psyop that we all can understand. Okay, so if that's the case, but it's something to consider, that maybe we thought this huge group was into this, and maybe it was just, maybe it was 5,000 people, and the bots and the tweets and the posts, and it was all fake. Now, what they get out of that or would have gotten out of that, we'll talk about some other time. That's not like a line item on what I'm trying to discuss here. For what I can, this premise of what I'm going to discuss here assumes this was a group of millions or more, or if Donald Trump has 30 million hardcore supporters, that 10 million were also involved in Q, or 20 million. My presentation here assumes that. If it was mostly faked or whatever, then that's just something to consider. So, but if this is the case and they don't come around in a week or so, or 2 weeks or a month, and just be like, so you have the Andes, but then say this is we'll just reverse it. This is the Q people. I don't have another doll. This is the Q people, and they don't come out and go, yeah, man, nothing's happening, and start tweeting like, nothing's happening. I guess we were not that they're going to be big enough to admit how fooled they were, but just the messages from them being like, no, not like the hope's gone. And I don't mean to like make it to be that depressing, like them at least acknowledging that they're not expecting somebody to ride in tomorrow again to save them, and that whole premise needs to be gone from these people. But if they keep it up, then the problem with me saying the different realities or whatever, so now we have another group that appears to us like it's some sort of psychosis. And somebody would explain that to me, or they're yelling at this presentation. They're saying, Matt, you yourself, you've talked about Andy gets the download. We don't know the mechanisms, the techniques, the mind controls, the spellcraft, the downloads using the 5G literal spellcraft, that where Andy can't see these things. Andy just makes excuses why somebody loses their little one and he comes laughing the next day to a podium, or why he can't see that a building can't drop. A building that would be one of the biggest, if you just plopped it into Switzerland, can't drop in 8.5 seconds from a fire on floors 8, 9, and 10. Can't drop to nothing. So Matt, you yourself talk about download, mind control. We don't know the techniques, but there's something where it doesn't work on us, works on Andy. Okay, but maybe it does work on us. That's kind of where this presentation is going. You have to be big enough to at least leave it on the table. Because what changes is, okay, if these Q people don't come around and they just have this strange hope that, I don't know what they think. It's like the guy sitting in the parking lot with his pink slip waiting to get the raise. Then now we have two groups. Then the problem is this Q group came from a group that's similar to ours, that sees a lot of the problems with government, that sees they're a bunch of creepy, traffickers, and that the government's too big and they steal your money, and the corruption. See, we have a lot in common with these Q people. So if now they're in a complete state of psychosis, then what before I give, well, hopefully this is not the conclusion, but you have to be big enough to keep things on the table and not be like, that can't be happening to me. One has to assume it's happening to us too. That's you can't just, I can't take that off the table. And the one thing, again, it's these Q people's, this new dynamic that's getting me to think this way, or put the two reality bubble things, separate realities, back on the table. Because you've got people like, my friend Tony over here, who, we've been belittling in the past, and these people, just no matter how smart they are in their corporate job, Matt, they can't see, and they're brainwashed and mind controlled and downloaded, and you're not, and blah, or you're not, and I'm not, and blah blah blah. But these people, again, like Tony will go in and manage a group of people, and they're successful, and they're not stupid. I guess what I'm saying. I'm not talking about the successful metrics of measuring one's life's worth by how many corporate promotions they've gotten. I'm saying they're not dumb. They're not dumb. Right? I've told you, Tony would come into a party, he'd tell jokes, he'd kind of carry the room. They're not stupid. And a Tony will look at me or look at you, people are like me, and say, he says, where did he go wrong? Like, how does he, Ken, why does he believe this stuff? Like, they can't see it like separate realities. And, I'm not saying I don't believe the download and all those things I put forth, but I'm saying remember the Q people. If you have a completely new group that's popped up that has a similar level of psychosis, the guy sitting in the parking lot with the pink slip thinking he's getting his job back and a promotion. That's what they are right now. This is, if they don't come around, and assuming it's fake, and all these tweets are all fake, saying we're just days away. Lionel Nation can say we're just days away from taking the country back. He's a plant of the system itself. Even the tweets themselves between a regular person and a regular person might be two bots, and it's just happening inside the Whopper computer, makes the internet, and you think all these Q people are waiting for something to happen. There might be next to nobody. That could be all part of the psyop. Like I mentioned, there's might be Q people we think is 10 million or 15 million. It might be like 10,000, maybe nothing. But I don't know that right now, and I have to assume it's as big as we think for the purposes of this. So if they don't change, then you now have two groups with a equal level of psychosis. And somebody would argue, well, Matt, again, we're immune to it. The original Andes, the college professors are down here and 20 miles down the road and at Villanova University, and who believe in Joe's going to be a great president, and believe in big government and all the merits of big government, and how lost and mind controlled and downloaded they are. And somebody might say, well, Matt, those same techniques are working on the Q people. They're not, just because you're on the conservative side doesn't mean you're immune to all those techniques. We're immune to it, and maybe, and hopefully so. But those same techniques, Mac, those same mind control is working on the Q people, and now they're in a level of psychosis we can't recognize. And that's probably the case. There are little things that kind of give away that we're not completely. Let me just back up. The premise here is that to be a big enough thinker, you have to be a fair thinker and not say, well, this can't be happening to me. One has to be big enough to say, well, this could be happening to me and you. We could be completely just as fooled. And the only way that could happen is if realities, like, or whatever this place is where we are, is delivering separate and different realities to each of us. And what I was going to say about Tony, where he demonstrates he's intelligent, where he manages people. See, he looks at us and says, he just can't understand how lost Matt is. So from his perspective, is it a coincidence? I guess I'm saying from his perspective, he looks at us exactly the way we, from our perspective, look at him. Missing it, can't see, lost, astray, maybe a little bit crazy. From our perspective to him, not crazy, but just a matrix child, downloaded. We have our own ways to explain how lost they are. But from his perspective, I can't see, or I'm lost or psychotic. From our perspective, he can't see. And it's like, well, isn't that a convenient coincidence? Now we have the Q people demonstrating the same symptoms, or showing the same symptoms. And then I must say, are we these techniques are working equally on all of us? And if anybody's struggling with this, and again, it's an exercise in thinking big. I have no conclusions here. we should consider it. To not consider these things is ignorant. Ignorant, meaning we just want to put our head in the sand. No, we're right. We have dropped veils. We see everything clearly. Well, maybe not so fast. Maybe not. I don't like these possibilities, but I have to consider them. Um, so look, the Q thing will be big. I mean, if they can't keep, what is it going to be, 10 years if Donald's left office, and they're going to be like, oh, it's just a day away. I mean, if that was the case, they're either completely, they're on the same download that the masses are, but in a little bit different way. All the same things are working, or the Q things is such a psyop there was hardly any of them. It's all bots and fake tweets. I don't know. You know, um, even that thing at the Capitol, the about last night. I can't say about last night the day before anymore. It's been a while, but there wasn't. There was, they talked about these big rallies beforehand that day. There wasn't big groups out there. I don't think, or at least what I saw with the damage. There was they made it seem like some massive group. I don't think it didn't look. I mean, I think that was faked. I don't think it was very big. So again, but in our favor, one thing that helps us in saying no, Matt, there's just no way. You're saying reality's serving up some sort of separate reality for this group, for that group, for that group, for us. Yeah, maybe. I don't think so. Just an exercise in thinking big. I have to consider it. But we have some things that can demonstrate or help demonstrate why that's unlikely. And one of the basic things that I've always pulled forth that actually shows how we are different or maybe special or have dropped veils. It's not just reality delivering separate realities to different groups. And people talk about reality breaking down. Well, if it's going to break down, this could be one of the ways it's doing it. What I was going to say was how we show more empathy or more interest in what people have to say, even if we don't show signs of the download, I guess is the best way to put it. Where if I tell Tony about, something regarding the 7-Eleven application that I just filled out, or whatever I want to talk about, whatever event, he'll basically just do earmuffs. He doesn't want to hear it. I've had somebody literally like run out of the room. They show body snatched signs where in our favor, where let's now it would be good if I can totally. I don't want to keep this on the table. I don't want to believe that I could be just as fooled as Tony or Andy. But in our favor, if somebody comes to us, and maybe it's just a neighbor you don't even know well, and said, I was alien abducted last night. I want to talk to you about it. We're not going to be like, man, don't talk to me. The ways people do to us, most of us have like empathy, or we show interest. We'll say, tell me about that. Really? Like, you're not going to believe it. You might be an older woman who lives down the hall. But we would be like, okay, well, let's talk it out. We would embrace it. Last night, I saw a ghost. Somebody's telling you they saw a ghost, and you might not believe in any of that. But you'd be like, well, tell me about that. That's what we do. That shows them it's more human what we do. It's not showing symptoms of a download or a running of scripts. We try to get to the bottom of it, and that is a tremendous. Just that by itself is tremendous evidence that we aren't just a classification inside these masses that have being shown some separate reality that we're all falling for. So the people around us look in and say that there are things that we demonstrate or signs we exhibit that say we are different, and that's just one example. There are many others, but the Q people, it will be telling, say over the next probably month or so. All right, and if there's still all these tweets that they're just days away from something big happening and sealed indictments or all this bull crap that it seemed like bull crap 3 years ago to us, then possibility one is the Q movement was 90 some percent smaller, and the part of the SIOP was thinking how many people are involved in this. And see, when my father is a complete Matrix person. he's already been actioned Jackson, already been actioned Jackson. Soon as available for people of a certain age to call in, just dial, busy signal, dial. He couldn't wait. It's like, do you want to be one of the first guinea pigs or whatever? Just maybe let a few million people get it, and then just couldn't wait, and was just thrilled once it happened. I mean, just complete matrix. And when he's coming to me, so he's come to me 4 or 5 months ago. So I'm like, what is this Q thing? And see, it's not when he knows about it, then that's this the system wants everybody to know about it. The system wants everybody talking about it. So was the main part of the psyop that it was so big, and it was like, it was like this it was the two people from Snopes that ran it, and there was like nobody involved, maybe, other than small groups of people that fly the giant flags off the back of their pickup trucks, run around like for Trump or whatever. But Greg, I haven't talked about him in a while, but Greg from South Carolina would probably disagree. He would be like, "There's a lot of people down here, Matt, like South Carolina. They're hardcore Trump supporters." I think he would say there's the numbers on Q aren't 10 or 20,000. It is what you think, 5 to 10 million hardcore people or more. So I don't know. But just consider that if my dad knows about it, it's because he's meant to know about it. It was promoted by the well. We can understand why it would be promoted by the system itself anyway. But these people, though, if there are, maybe the truth's in the middle. Maybe there's just 3 or 4 million. That's just not a big group of these hardcore Q followers. But if the tweets don't change and their Facebook posts be like, man, I'm really feeling bad that I put a lot of stock in that and nothing happened, instead of like this hope that it's going to happen tomorrow. If they don't come out of their psychosis, if they come out of their psychosis, this whole presentation kind of gets blown away, and I go back to just thinking we're special, and Andy can't see, and he's downloaded, and we kind of go back to where we were. But if the Q people don't change, then I don't know. Then somebody might say, "Well, Matt, it's just a different group on a different type of download." Then why aren't we on it? Why aren't we a different group that could be on a different type of download? Because you have completely different things. See, the reason why I'm potentially bridging this out to us, like it could be. Do I think I'm fooled? No, I'm not. I don't think I'm fooled. I'm not throwing out, banning everything I've done here in the last 10 years. I'm just saying the big thinker or the honest dealer has to keep things on the table, even things that are disturbing and things they don't like. I'm not going to talk on a YouTube channel what I hope is going to happen. If this kind of hits me. So the Q people, it's not, it's the problem is it's now the psychosis has affected a completely different type of person in a completely different type of way. So that's kind of part of it. Their reality, if the Q people don't back off and they just have this hope, their reality is different than the Villanova professor that just can't wait to get, basically Biden bringing back the Obama administration part two, more big government that's going to help people. It's just as psychotic, but the reality is that each are experiencing isn't the same. They don't, they I don't know. It's hard thing to talk about, but I hope I floated that the best that I could, and you know, I'm not abandoning everything I've done over 10 years. I don't believe I'm fooled, but I have to be wise enough to assume that whatever mechanism they are using to fool everybody around me, it's pretty arrogant to think I'm the only one that's not being fooled. And if it is happening, I don't know how reality would do it. I don't know, but we've seen the nature of this matrix break down. We've seen the nature of this matrix do things that were inexplicable. It would be literally like delivering separate realities to different groups. And anybody saying, well, how would that happen? I don't know. How would anybody know how that would happen? But I've seen so many reality breakdowns, I'm not going to be like, well, that's impossible. I've seen the impossible. I've witnessed the impossible through the screen, through the presentation of the screen. I've never witnessed the impossible just walking down through the park. Again, what's in your current bubble is more real. As you get out towards the screen, it's reality breakdowns, things that don't make sense. 14 videos of some gray thing coming in to Tower 2 when there should be 1400, but minimum, I mean absolute rock bottom minimum, 350 videos and another 150 still images, of which you have no still images. New York City doesn't have any photographers. They have no news. Every single news outlet is in the world there. Every modeling agency in the world is there. Every amateur photographer that wants to do something big is there. They no still pictures that prove one way or another anything about United Airlines, whatever. So that by itself, we've been over these. These are reality breakdowns, and if I've seen enough of those, well then I'm not that surprised if reality could be delivering to me a separate reality. I don't know. I don't. Is anybody playing Take Me to the Last Page of the Story or Show Me the Story's End, the basic defense mechanism that these people play with us? I can't tell you how that could possibly occur. It's pretty simple though. I've seen a bunch of weird shit. I've seen reality breakdowns that, per every definition of breakdown, like just completely, it should not be possible in this world. So, if I've seen all that, then why would I assume that reality can't be delivering me my own subset, my own separate reality of some kind, even because I can't explain the means or the mechanism or the technique or the spell? And if anybody said, well, let's say that is the case, what does that mean? I don't know. I was thinking about the Q people today, and I went, oh shit, we have another group that's fooled. Does that mean how many groups are fooled, and are we one of those groups? I don't know what it means. But if we do, we do need to consider it. That's all. Thanks, guys.